What if humility isn't about thinking less of yourself, but finally seeing yourself clearly? If PTSD, anxiety, or depression have taught you to minimize your strengths, hide your abilities, or apologize for who you are, this episode will help you rethink what humility really means. Do you want to achieve your goals, but anxiety is tripping you up? Like to keep those fun weekend plans, but depression has you counseling again? Hey, I'm Lori, dog mom, lover of nature, and hygge enthusiast. Positive psychology skills help me overcome chronic severe PTSD. If you're ready to learn how to overcome your anxiety and depression and rediscover happiness and purpose in life, then get your cozy on and let's get started. Welcome back to Practical Solutions for PTSD and our next installment in the Not Broken Equipped series, which, as you know, is one of my favorites. I love talking about character strengths. And I have been fascinated with personality assessments for a long time. I remember taking my first ones when I was in my early 20s. Well, actually, in my teens. I was in my late teens, and I took a handwriting analysis, and that got me hooked. And I've been doing them ever since. I absolutely love them. And to me, they provide such an interesting window into our personality and who we are and how God created us to be. And then as I've dug into others that are more in depth, and like Myers-Briggs and the DISC survey and the character strength survey we talk about here, the values and action survey, and there's a lot of others out there. It's very fascinating to me, and I love to learn more about what makes me tick and how things work, and not only for myself but for other people. It provides such a fascinating window into the reasons why they do what they do. Psychology was one of my favorite courses in college. But after you take all these personal assessments and they provide all this fascinating information, the next question is, now what? And I taught character strengths, what we talk about here on this Not Broken Equipped series. I taught this on a more consolidated high level for the Army for a long time. And my favorite class to teach, hands down, I love teaching this class. But one of the things I would hear from them a lot as well is, how do I make this work for me? And we would talk about specifics on how to build a team and how to implement this in work. And we worked in it in the work area, but then taking this into your everyday life. And how do I make this work for me when I'm dealing with depression, when I'm struggling with anxiety, when I'm fighting back against seasonal depression or isolation and struggling with guilt, whatever that may be? How do I put this to work? And that's some of what I do when I work with you on the one-on-one sessions for the anxiety and depression breakthrough sessions. As we sit down and we look at all those personality assessments that we've gone through, that you've taken already, and put those to work for you. Like, how can I break this down and make it work for me where I'm leaning into my strengths? I'm leaning into the person that God created me to be. I'm leaning into that and using that to help me learn how to organize my time, or help me learn how to overcome burnout, or help me to learn how to fill my soul so I have the strength to make it through the day that is so demanding. This is what I help you do in our one-on-one sessions, is we start breaking some of that down and mapping out a path for you and giving you a tool set that helps you specifically, that addresses your character strengths and your personality traits and helps you to fill yourself up. I mean, I've worked with one client who one of her things is appreciation of beauty. And so being able to help her to focus spending that time on filling her soul, appreciating beauty, it gives her the emotional energy she needs throughout the rest of her day to be able to face the stressors. And if you're looking at something that's going to be high stress, knowing that you can focus on this to give you that additional source of energy can really help you make it through that. So this is part of what we do, is I sit down, I work with you one-on-one, I chart this out for you and help you to be able to put that together. If this is something you would like to do to be able to help you to be able to maximize your success at work, or to be able to strategize how you're going to approach the hurdles that you're facing on a day-to-day basis, the struggles that you're dealing with, set up an appointment with me. Go to practicalsolutionsforptsd.com. You can go to the breakthrough page, which is just /breakthrough. There's all the information on the coaching sessions there. You can set your first one up and be able to get that coordinated and set up and be able to maximize and customize your toolkit to who you are and to be able to structure that specifically for that. So I'd love to be able to work with you. Again, you can go to practicalsolutionsforptsd.com/breakthrough and schedule your first 60-minute session with me now. So as I mentioned today, we are doing the next session of the Not Broken Equip series, and we're starting with a new virtue today. We're going to start with temperance, and we have a few character strengths in there. And today we're going to talk about humility. Now, humility is one of those that is very often misunderstood. Often when people think about hear the word humility, they think about making less of yourself or thinking less of yourself, hiding your abilities, refusing to acknowledge your accomplishments. But humility isn't about making yourself smaller. For someone who has lived with PTSD, anxiety, depression, seasonal depression, that distinction becomes especially important because it's very easy to get into self-criticism and self-denial, and that is not what humility is. It is not shrinking yourself because you're afraid of judgment. It isn't pretending you're less capable than what you are. A real humility is knowing yourself honestly. And this can be so liberating. It's recognizing your strengths, acknowledging your limitations, staying open to learning, and understanding that you don't have to prove your worth. Sometimes humility means admitting you don't know, and sometimes it means accepting help. Sometimes it means confidently acknowledging this is something I'm really good at. So let's take just a minute to look at what humility really is. Humility is the ability to see yourself realistically, to recognize both strengths and limitations, and remain open to growth. And the growth mindset is really important to humility. Understanding that you can grow, you can change, you can develop, but recognizing where you're strong and learning how to develop that as well as your limitations. So, trauma, anxiety, and depression can distort the way we see ourselves. We might focus so heavily on our mistakes that you can't recognize what you're doing well. Or you may dismiss your accomplishments because they don't feel significant enough to count. Humility offers a healthier perspective. It allows you to recognize what you're good at without needing constant approval. Admitting you don't have all the answers, learning from feedback without seeing it as a personal attack. And sometimes that can be difficult to not see it as a personal attack, but feedback is really good data that can help you to grow and develop. It can also mean asking for help when you need it, or give credit to others without diminishing yourself. Humility is accurate self awareness. Accurate, that's really important because it sees both the strengths and the weaknesses or lesser strengths. It's being able to say, I know what I'm bringing to the table, and I also know where I still have room to grow. And both of them are really important to being truly successful. Humility shows up in ordinary moments. It's like saying, I don't know, but I'll find out. And that was when I was working for the Army and you'd be briefing someone who had all this knowledge and would ask these incredibly difficult questions. This was one of the best answers you could give if you really didn't know. Don't try to bluff your way through it and fake it till you make it. If you don't know, just say it. But then tell them you'll find out and get back to them with an answer. Another way it's going to show up in everyday life is accepting help instead of insisting you have to do everything yourself. I'm celebrating someone else's success without comparing it to your own. Admitting when you've made a mistake. Listening when someone offers a different perspective. All of these are ways that humility shows up in your day-to-day life. For someone dealing with anxiety, humility can take some of the pressure out of perfectionism. You don't have to know everything or get everything right. It's okay to say, I don't know, but I'll find out. For depression, it can help challenge the belief that your mistakes define you. For seasonal depression, humility may mean acknowledging that your capacity changes with your energy, circumstances, or season of life. You don't have to pretend that you're operating at 100% when you're not. Humility allows you to work with reality instead of fighting against it. When humility becomes unhealthy, you're going to see things like constantly putting yourself down, apologizing for things that don't require an apology, hiding your abilities, refusing recognition because you don't want to appear boastful, allowing other people to take advantage of your willingness to serve. For trauma survivors, making yourself smaller may have once felt like the best way to avoid conflict or attention. And I've been, again, working for the Army. One thing I used to hear a lot is keep your head down. And sometimes we feel like keeping our head down, the nail that stands up the highest is the one that gets hit first. This is something I used to hear a lot. And with that mindset, sometimes of trying to avoid attention, we don't acknowledge what we've done well. We try to hide that or duck away from it. Now, it doesn't mean you have to be an attention seeker and insist on being put to the front. But when humility gets out of balance, that's where you start allowing people to take advantage of your willingness to serve or the other things that we mentioned. For anxiety, humility can become another form of perfectionism. I should speak up. Someone else knows better. What if they think I'm arrogant? For depression, it may sound something like, I don't really have anything to offer. So here's a way I want you to reframe this. Humility doesn't require you to disappear. You can be humble and confident. You can recognize your gifts without believing you're better than someone else. You can accept compliments without apologizing for your accomplishments. You can acknowledge your limitations without turning them into evidence that you're inadequate. It's okay that you don't know how to do everything. In fact, one thing we used to say in the Army a lot is, I don't have to know everything, I just need to know who does. So having that team around you to help balance out those lesser strengths or those limitations can really help you be successful. So how does humility support our recovery and with PTSD, anxiety, depression, etc.? So for PTSD, humility can reduce the pressure to prove yourself or maintain control over every single situation. It creates room to acknowledge what you need without seeing that need as weakness. For anxiety, humility can interrupt perfectionism by allowing you to say, I don't know, I made a mistake, or I need help, without turning those statements into a crisis. For depression, realistic self awareness can challenge both harsh self judgment and the belief that you have nothing valuable to contribute. For seasonal depression, humility helps you recognize changing energy levels and adjust expectations accordingly. Humility doesn't ask you to think less of yourself, it asks to see yourself clearly. There are things all of us were created to do that we can do really, really well. There are things every single person on the face of the planet has areas that they fail or they really struggle with. Every single one. Being honest about that is where you see healthy humility. So there are 4 practical ways you can strengthen humility, strengthen this character strength in your everyday life. Number 1 is to recognize both strengths and limitations, making a list of what you're good at and where you still need support. Neither list determines your worth. And I've talked about this before in previous episodes of the Not Broken Equipped series. There are 24 character strengths in this, and there's a lot more character strengths out there, but there's 24 that they focus on within this survey. Every single one of them are amazing and wonderful and beautiful and just fantastic. But there's some of them you're going to be really bad at, and there's going to be some that you're really, really good at. Both are okay. It doesn't really matter which ones you're good at, which ones you completely bomb or fail. It's all okay. It's all right. You don't have to be ashamed of them. You just get in there and you work at it. And it's really, really important that you lean into your strengths and spend a good amount of time developing those and leaning into them. But because your strengths are the person who God created you to be. And that's where you're going to be the best version of yourself. So, being able to recognize both your strengths and your limitations is a way to help grow humility in your life. Number 2 is to accept help. And for those of you who are independently minded like I am, learning to accept help can be really difficult. I remember at one point praying that God would help me to learn how to accept help. He took me at my word and put me in a position where I had no other choice and found out it didn't kill me. And so understanding that it's okay to ask for help and to accept it, you don't have to prove your independence confidence by doing everything alone. Receiving support allows other people to contribute as well, and it helps build that community that is so important that we're a part of. Number three is to stay curious. When someone offers feedback, pause before becoming defensive. And I know sometimes that can be hard, but pause for a minute. Ask yourself, is there something here that I can learn from what this person is saying? And number four is to own your mistakes without attacking yourself. You can say, I got that wrong, without adding, I am a failure. Just because you screwed up, just because something went wrong, does not mean that you're a failure. It means that you're learning. In fact, some of the best way you can learn is from your failures. And yes, I know, I struggle with this as well. And I'm kind of preaching to the choir here. I struggle with that as well. When I fail, I struggle with feeling like I am personally a failure. But it's not true. This is where we learn. We learn from our mistakes. We can pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and learn and grow and do better. Accountability and self-compassion can exist together. Humility grows when you can be honest about who you are without exaggerating your strengths or apologizing for them. You don't have to apologize for your strengths either. As we close, I want you to remember this. Humility isn't thinking less of yourself. It's seeing yourself honestly. You can acknowledge your strengths without arrogance. You can acknowledge your limitations without shame. You can accept help without feeling weak. And you can keep learning without believing you have to become someone else to be worthy. If you've spent years making yourself smaller, humility doesn't mean shrinking further. It may mean finally seeing yourself accurately. So here's a question to carry with you this week. What is one strength you have that you have been minimizing or dismissing? I'm going to say that again. What is one strength you have that you have been minimizing or dismissing? Give yourself permission to acknowledge it. You don't have to prove anything. You don't have to make this big deal about it. Just tell the truth about yourself and acknowledge that strength that you have been minimizing or dismissing. And with that, I'm going to let you go, and we'll see you back here next time. If you would like some help in mapping out your character strengths and how you can use them in your everyday life to turn on your superpowers, go to practicalsolutionsforptsd.com/breakthrough and schedule your appointment today. Hey, my friend, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, would you please take 30 seconds and share it with someone you know who may be struggling with depression and anxiety? Also, would you please leave a quick review for the show? Knowing how this podcast is helping you fills my heart with so much joy, and it motivates me for future episodes. For now, it's time for Sam and I to head outside to enjoy some sunshine and fresh air. We'll see you back here on Tuesdays and Thursdays for more great episodes.